and you'll be able to see the examples that we're talking about. We have some different case histories of people who got on TV to promote their book or service, and you'll be able to see the screenshots. And again, that's at www.tvcallhandout.com. And as I said, my name is Steve Harrison. I'm best known as being the publisher of Radio TV Interview Report. And we've also helped over 12,000 authors, entrepreneurs, experts, different spokespeople get publicity for their message. We've helped launch Chicken Soup for the Soul, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. We work with the Dummy series. We've actually, not just books, but really a whole variety of entrepreneurs, authors, and experts. And one of the things that I've observed is that it seems like everybody wants to get on national TV. I mean, they want that type of exposure, but very, very few people really know how to get it. And that's what we're going to be doing on this call, is really showing you what's required, what you need to do, and how to do it. I've been thrilled to help my own clients get on shows like The Today Show, The View, Good Morning America, CNN, Fox News, and many others. And I'm going to be giving you examples today of success stories of what you can learn, what they did, how you can model after them, and what you can take away from their experiences. Now, the purpose of this call is to get more people talking about you, to get more people talking about you at the dinner table, at their place of business, over the water cooler, so to speak, to get them to know who you are, to go to your website and order whatever it is that you're offering, to get you more distribution. If you've got a book and you want to get into more bookstores, if you've got a product and you want to get into more retail outlets, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about getting any type of decision maker or gatekeeper, anybody who has any kind of influence at all, to see you in a new way, where they want to buy from you, where they want to hire you, where they want you over everybody else, and they're willing to give you more money, because this is all about not just publicity, but having you be able to have more influence, make more of a difference, and make more money. And that's really what we're talking about here on this call. Now, here's our agenda. First, I'm going to lay the foundation here and talk a little bit about the different ways that you profit from free publicity. And then you're going to hear from some of my media friends. These are producers. They're waiting in the wings, and they'll tell you what to do, what not to do, how they look at different guests. And you'll hear me interview them in just a little bit. In fact, I've got the producer from Live with Kelly and Michael, Rachel Ray, Wendy Williams, Telepictures Productions. So, my friends, I'm going to cover some points here, so don't go anywhere, okay?
Sounds great.
That's great.
Absolutely.
All right. Then I'll let you hear from some actual case histories, 3 people who had a message or a product or a book to promote, and they had never been on national TV before, but you'll hear how they were able to make it happen. So, all right, so let's get into this. Let's roll up our sleeves and get started. Let me ask you this. How do you generate a ton of traffic to your website fast? Well, that's the question that a young entrepreneur here in the Philadelphia area wants to ask himself. His name is Josh Koppelman, and he had an internet business that was like eBay, and it was called half.com. And he has a story that I think really illustrates what we're talking about on this call, and that is he knew he wanted to get his message out there, and he knew he needed to get publicity. And what he did was he ended up convincing a town in Oregon that was called Halfway, Oregon. They had a population of like 200 people, and it was located on the railroad track. And he convinced that tiny town to change their name to half.com. And he gave them a couple computers and a snowplow. And the thing is, he then got so much media exposure because he sent out a press release saying, for the first time ever, a town has changed its name to a .com. And from this press release and just from this publicity stunt, he ended up getting publicity everywhere. I mean, he got on the Today Show, got on the Wall Street Journal. He later estimated that he would have spent over $10 million just for the amount of airtime that he got for free. Well, less than a year later, Josh sold his business to eBay for over $300 million. And so it just powerfully shows the power of publicity, how you're just one idea from really accomplishing anything you want. And I often say at my seminars, what would happen if you were 10 times more famous than you are right now? If 10 times more people knew about your business? Well, you'd have 10 times more money, 10 times more influence, 10 times more customers, and your competition would be 10 times angrier because they'd be seeing you everywhere. And publicity is really the ideal way to become more famous, and here's why. It's better than advertising for 3 reasons, and you can write these down. You're following along in the handout that's available at tvcallhandout.com. All right, now number 1, it's free. You don't pay anything. When you're interviewed on TV or radio, you're getting free airtime to promote your message, and you're getting your plug. You'll get your plug. That's where they tell people how they can order what you have, what you're promoting. Now the second thing is it's better than advertising, and number 2 is it's not only free, but it's more believable. It's more credible. You see, if people see you running an ad somewhere, they tend to be skeptical. But when they see you on TV, they say, boy, if this person's good enough for CBS or Fox, they must really be the expert. This book must really be pretty good. This product must be pretty cool. Now the other thing is that publicity is also better than advertising in that it multiplies. And that's number 3. It multiplies. Now, let me ask you, if you run an ad somewhere, do they ever call you up and say, oh, we love your ad, it's so beautiful, we'd like to run it for you for free in 6 other publications? No, it doesn't happen, right? They call you and they want to sell you more advertising. But with publicity, that really does happen. People hear about you, read about you, and say, you know what, we would also like to interview you. So have you ever noticed that, where the media tends to follow the same stories again and again? Well, that's really the power of doing this right. And what I find is a lot of companies and entrepreneurs and people that are marketing something, they actually neglect publicity because they don't know how to get it. But they also don't know all the different ways that publicity puts money in their pocket. So let me go through this. Number 1 is obvious, okay? You get publicity, orders can come in from anywhere. Online, phone, mail, fax, because the producers understand that if they're going to put you on TV, okay, if you're going to give their audience information, they're going to, need to tell people where they can order your book or whatever it is you're promoting, your website. They'll give you a plug. There are different ways they might do it, but they definitely realize that, if you have focused on being a good guest and a useful interview for their audience, then they'll be sure to plug what you're doing. Now, the second thing is that publicity creates more word of mouth, more buzz. I had an entrepreneur who had a dating service, and it was called Calculated Couples. And this was years ago, and we worked with him, and we gave him this idea. We said, listen, why don't you say to the producers, hey, I can match up your studio audience live on TV. And from this one idea, okay, he had never been on national TV before. He was actually booked on Oprah from this one idea. He was the only guest for a full hour. And he said, I can't believe it. I've got $1 million worth of publicity from just one publicity hook. And that's what's exciting, is you can get on these shows and it creates buzz and people start talking about you. And they say, did you see that guy on TV? Did you see that lady and what she said? Did you hear about that book? And it really creates the buzz and the word of mouth. Now, number 1 is that orders can come in from anywhere. Number 2 is that it creates more word of mouth and more buzz. Number 3 is that publicity puts money in your pocket by getting you through gatekeepers and getting them to call you. So, for example, if you're in business and you want a distributor, maybe a big company that could get you into retail stores, they see the publicity that you're getting, and then they decide, you know what, we're going to carry this product. And I've seen that happen again and again for my clients. And let's say people who book speakers for conventions, when they see you on national TV, they say, hey, you know what, if this person's good enough for that national TV show, they're good enough for our conference. And that's really the point I'm making here, is it just makes things happen that way, where the gatekeepers, the people who might ordinarily not give you the opportunity, really do now give you the opportunity because they see you in a whole new way. Number 4, because now people are talking about you, they're seeing you as more of a celebrity, they're more willing to pay more money for you. Now this may surprise you, but Donald Trump, is not the most successful real estate developer out there. There are people who've had more success than he's had as a real estate developer. But they don't get paid nearly as much to speak as Donald Trump does. Last I heard, he gets well over $200,000 for a 1-hour speech. So his fame in itself has value in terms of marketing and commanding top dollar. Number 5 is publicity separates you from your competition. You're not seen as just another author, another expert, or as a salesperson that's selling something. You're looked at as an expert, and you're in a category of your own. Number 6 is that publicity puts money in your pocket by increasing the effectiveness of all your advertising and your marketing. When you're able to say things like, as seen on Good Morning America, or when you incorporate examples of publicity that you've received in your marketing, put it on your website, people are impressed with that. And I have some really good news for you also, and that is that I found that after helping over 12,000 different entrepreneurs and clients and authors and speakers and coaches and experts, after doing this for close now to over 25 years, the good news is that I've seen that anyone can get publicity. You don't need a PhD. You don't even have to have a book. You don't have to have some spectacular qualifications. You just have to have a message that's relevant and beneficial to the audience, and you can craft that, and we're going to show you how. And so if you've tried to get publicity and it hasn't worked, it's probably because you don't have the right hook or the right publicity idea, or you're not contacting the right people in the right way. So let's talk about what you need to do. And I find that the big mistakes that people make is that they approach the media to kind of persuade the media to give them publicity in much the same way that they try to persuade people to buy their product or service. And so, for example, if you're a stockbroker, you don't want to say to the media, hi, I'm with Harrison Brokerage Services, and I want to tell you what we now offer the clients over the Internet. Well, who cares about that? But if you were to send out a press release about the economy in China and say more and more American investors are investing in China, should you? See, where you position yourself as an expert, you're a lot more likely to get coverage because now you're giving advice to people that is really relevant to them, and you're tying in with something that's newsworthy that people are talking about. All right, well now at this point, I really want to introduce my media friends who've been waiting here in the wings, and I appreciate them being on this call. We've got Marianne Sable with Live with Kelly and Michael. Marianne, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here.
And we've got Tommy Crudup with Rachel Ray. Tommy, we're glad to have you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
And we've got Dan Fitzpatrick, producer with The Wendy Williams Show.
Hey, everybody. Good to be here.
And Stacy Rollins with Telepictures Productions.
Hi, how are you?
Good deal. I'm glad to have you. I'm doing great, and I'm really glad to have you guys. So let me ask you this. One of the things that you've observed, I'm sure, is mistakes that people are making. And one of the questions I love asking you guys when you come to my publicity summit is if you had a brother or a sister who had something to promote and they really wanted to get publicity and get on a major show, a top national TV show like the ones you work with, what would be the key thing you would tell them to do? Marianne with Live with Kelly and Michael, let's start with you.
Okay. Well, the key thing for me, what I would say is watch the shows you want to be on. Take notes. See what they do. And then this way, when you are ready to pitch them, you can gear your pitch to the way they do the show. And the other thing that, one of my little things is find out who you need to pitch. Get their title correct and their spelling correct. It's all a reflection on the person who's doing the pitching. If they can't spend that little extra time to find out the name, the spelling, and all of that, you start to wonder about their credibility and just how they will be on the show.
That's a great point.
The details matter, huh?
Details definitely matter.
Wow. That's it. So watch the show. Makes a lot of sense. Tommy, what about you?
Well, I was about to say, you get to think of the flip side. The flip side is that as bookers and as producers, we're watching everything out there so that we know exactly what to book on our shows.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when someone wants to be on a nationally televised talk show, they need to have watched it. They need to know that Rachel did a segment on something that they're doing well, or that Wendy loves beef jerky. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Let's cook some beef jerky.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I can't tell you how many times that people, it's painfully obvious that they don't watch the show.
And that hurts. That's not fun.
Exactly, because if you come and you watch the show, you'll know exactly what kind of segment you fit into, and you'll be able to pitch it so much better. You'll know, that this is something for our show, which would be an inside scoop, which would be somebody who's an expert on a particular field that is related to something current that's going on in the news right now.
And
that's
Steve,
the way that you would pitch it.
Steve, by the way, we're not talking about you have to watch a month's worth of shows. I mean, with all of our shows, you can watch one episode and figure out what's going on. I mean, it's really, that's just basic homework that you need to do if you want to get booked on these shows.
I think another thing is not only to know the show, but to also have an idea. Like, what are you going to do? Why should we book you? And, what can you do on the show that's going to, give us a takeaway or give us some fun or, be meaningful? And I think that's really important to have an idea of what you're going to do for us.
No, but it's so important. They should be thinking about it in the way that we produce TV, which is that we're constantly thinking about exactly what is that line that's going to make you come back and watch the show again. What's that one little promo bit that's going to make you want to watch this segment? So we're constantly looking at these segments as little story arcs. And so when you get a pitch in an email pitch, you want it to say, email pitches should be one paragraph. And, in the subject line, it should just be, this is the most amazing video you've ever seen, or so whatever that is, that's going to make me want to watch it. So,
right. And they should be individual. I mean, yeah, it shouldn't be a mass email that you send out to a bunch of people whose emails that you've accumulated.
I don't respond to mass emails. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I don't either.
Okay, so here's a question for Tommy at Rachael Ray. Suppose that someone's an expert on bed bugs, okay, and they see that, today you just did a show on bed bugs. I think sometimes people ask me, well, should I call the producer the next day and say, hey, I can talk about bed bugs?
Well, but at that point, I wouldn't even pitch it. What I would say is, if I got an email that said, hey, Tommy, I just saw your segment on bed bugs. Mm-hmm. I just want to let you know that I'm a better expert, or that the next time you do something, please think of me, and then give me a video clip of showing me why you're so good, and at that point, I'll put you in the list.
It's a different take of it.
Exactly. It just can't be that I see you cover bed bugs. I'm into it, too.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But I think there is a ray of hope for people because if obviously you're covering it, then that means that it's being talked about. It's something that's newsworthy. It's relevant. It's topical. So just because one show did it doesn't mean another media outlet won't. And I hate to admit this, but we all kind of recycle what everyone does. And if it is being talked about, and if it's topical, and if it's like a phenomenon that's like sweeping the country, then maybe they wouldn't repitch Tommy, but they might want to pitch the other shows, the other news organizations, because it obviously is topical.
That's very true.
Mm-hmm. The way that you're going to pitch me for Wendy Williams isn't going to be the same way that you're going to pitch, a Nate Berkus or something like that. And a lot of times I can hear their pitches, and it's sort of, it's probably the same one that they've been practicing, and it encompasses exactly what they do, very matter-of-factly. But it's not. It's obvious that it's not for Wendy Williams.
Yeah.
And I'll tell those people maybe you want to go pitch Nate Berkus or something like that. But there is ways to make that what you're doing intriguing to each individual show. And that goes back to the same point that we made before. Watch the show. Know the shows.
And Stephen, a lot of times we'll see an email that'll come through that'll be so long and so intricate, and that this person put their heart into it and they worked really hard on it. But at the end of the day, they shouldn't have done that. They should send you a paragraph and a link, and then we can decide whether or not we want to do it or not.
Yeah, they need to get to the point.
Yeah, it's like the phone call you go, the voice message you get, where they're actually doing the pitch on the voicemail.
Yeah.
I don't think that we're trying to, obviously also be difficult. It's very easy for us to say all the things that we do, that we like, that are right and that are wrong. But one thing that I will say also is that our job is very unique, and a lot of people don't understand exactly what we do, or they might not know someone in the business, but it really is very stressful. We have a lot of information and a lot of pressure and a lot of stuff that's riding on us each day. And when people pitch you, I had a guy today call me. He was so nice, and I'm in the middle of launching a new show, and I have a ton on my plate, and he's like, I really want to talk to you about something. In November we have this, awareness month coming out, and I was like, I was literally under the gun at this point. I had stuff due. I had phone calls. Like my phone was ringing, and I said, look, I don't mean to be rude. I really want to talk to you, but I'm in the middle of something, and I really can't talk about November because I don't even know what I'm doing next week. I can't tell you what I'm doing in November. And he just kept talking and talking. And I said, please put it in an email. Number one, I really prefer pitches in an email so I can get to it and read it in time. And number two, with television, we are like day to day, minute by minute, hour by hour. I cannot do something in November. I mean, unless it's like a long-term, huge news story or big celebrity that I'm like really working on, I just couldn't. So people just have to be mindful of our unique situations. We're under a lot of pressure and timing. That's why the short emails are really important, because we don't have the time to go through a 2-page email that virtually doesn't give us any idea of who they really are anyway.
Yeah, they need to be able to get right to the point and say why you should interview them. In fact, as a fun exercise here, I want to invite everyone right now to stop what you're doing and send me an email. Tell me why you think the media should interview you. And this is actually a really helpful, focusing question for you. Why should the media interview you? And send me an email to feedback@meetthemedia.com. That's feedback@meetthemedia.com. And tell me why you think the media should interview you. And here's what I'd suggest. Think about how you can serve their audience, because that's really what this is about. Getting on that show is about serving their audience, whether it's the people who watch the TV show in the case of TV, or getting in that blog or that print publication. It's about how you can serve their readers. So what can you offer them? Send me an email and simply say in the subject header, I can show people blank, whatever it is, or I can help people fill in the blank. You might say, I can show people how to save money on insurance, or I can help people reinvent themselves, or I can help people find their soulmate. Put something like that in the subject header, and feel free to tell me more about yourself in the body of the email. Help me get to know you better and what you're about, and it'll help you focus on the all-important part of that email, which is the subject header. And again, send it to me at feedback@meetthemedia.com. Now, as we've been talking, Marianne, we've talked about how people need to watch the show. That's important. And you know as well as I do that a lot of times people think in terms of getting on a show to promote their book or their product. And it's important to think about creating a segment around your content, your book or your product. What is it that people are going to actually do on the air? Give us some examples of things that people do on your show.
The main thing for us would be demos. It's TV. We need visuals. Take what you do and think in terms of how you can do visuals. I mean, we did ticks. I showed ticks. We had pictures. I mean, not everything has a product, or you can't demonstrate some hairdo or what have you, but you'd be surprised how you can turn your words into visuals. And that's what we're looking for. We want people to be able to stand up. Sit-downs are easy. We want them to stand up and do something. It gives us variety in our show, and that's what we're looking for. So just think in terms of, if you were going to tell your girlfriend what you do, write it down and try to put some visuals to it. We're always looking for tips, information, and content.
Mm-hmm. That's very helpful.
Every show is looking for something different. That's what makes all of our shows unique and different. But I think, and I agree with Marianne, I think in terms of framing a segment, we don't want just what we call like a talking head. We don't want just someone to talk. But I also think if it's story-driven, so if someone has a book about, their amazing survival story, is there any footage? Was there a place where they were in an accident and they survived, and we can bring them back to that place and talk about the emotions? And I think every show is looking for something different. Some shows are very celebrity-oriented, and it's fun, light interviews. Some are more story-driven. But again, that's in terms of picking the right show for you. Mm-hmm. But I think that you have to come up with an idea. And this is the broader way to think about it, for people to think about it, is that we have advertisers that pay us a lot of money for 30-second spots and 20-second spots, etc. So because they pay a lot of money in advertising, we can't just come and say, oh, you have a product, come and get some free publicity, even though other people are paying us hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're not going to just be a commercial for someone. There has to be a reason. There's got to be a takeaway. What is someone going to learn from it? What are they going to laugh? Are they going to, get up and cheer? There's got to be something that's going to be a takeaway. We can't just do commercials in a show.
All right, so we talked about the importance of watching the show and being familiar with it. We've been talking also about being able to pitch yourself in different ways, coming up with different hooks that the media can really see how they can use you. And that's one of the things that we do whenever we train folks to meet the media and to be getting publicity. One of the things we also suggest to them is to, consider if they have any video, if they've done any local TV, to be able to show that to the producers, or in fact, even if they just were to sit down with a video camera and record something, and and so you can at least see how they might come across. That can be helpful too.
I mean, if that means doing something and putting it on YouTube until you get it right,
Right.
it's something to show, at least our show. I need to see if you can talk and demonstrate basically at the same time. And you do on our show really carry the show. Let the guests go, and then they interject versus the other way around on some other shows. So it's important that they do take charge.
That's a good point. And let's talk about some success stories. Who are some people who pitched you in the right way, and what can we learn from them? Could you give me an example of somebody who they did it right?
I don't know if you guys know this person. You might, but does anyone know Dr. Gadget?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So Dr. Gadget, we booked when I was on the Wayne Brady show. We found this guy, and he took a whole different take on products, and he decided that he was going to be the doctor of, hey, these are the best speakers in town, you should have them. And I forget how we found him, but I know that he pitched the show, and we turned him into, we started doing giveaways on Wayne, and he's wearing his white doctor's outfit, and it was absurd, but what he did was he made all his relationships with these companies. And so he'd go to Sony or he'd go to Dell or whatever, and they would give him free products, and he would go on there and enthusiastically. I remember we did a hot tub one time, and we did a huge hot tub, which you gave away to one person in the audience, and Dr. Gadget jumped in during the show. And it was just so much fun that it turned out that we took him to Tony Danza, and then from there he went to The View. I think he still works on The View. And he's just got a great gig, and he's a perfectly nice guy, really lovely guy. But when he pitched us, it was a unique pitch. It was, here's my personality, and here's what I could deliver to you.
When I did the summit, I met Dave Farrow, all right? He's the memory guy. And his thing was, I'm willing to do anything. I can do 4 decks of cards and memorize them and so on and so forth. And he was great on the show, but what came across was that he was passionate, he was enthusiastic. So many times you do get people who talk to you, but they say, don't worry, but when I get on camera, I'm really much better.
That doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Dave showed me what he can do right then and there at the summit, and he got booked.
There was a woman that I met, and also I think timing is everything too. It's a good example of, I met this woman. She was her family had a private detective business. She then used it because she needed a babysitter for her kids. She couldn't find one. She ultimately decided that a lot of moms had this problem, so she used her skills to open up a sitting service that did background checks on sitters. And then it turned out something about, she was a great talker. She had a lot of passion. There was something about her that I knew I loved. But at the time, I was working on a show that it just wasn't right for. But I kept her in my Rolodex. And the next season, I was at one of the morning shows, and a story came up where we needed to get someone who, had this type of background, because there was a horrible nanny cam story of abuse caught on tape, and the family wouldn't talk, but they put the footage out there, and we needed an expert. P.S. I call her, and even though it had been a year since I'd met her at the summit, I always knew I would maybe use her one day, and she was fantastic. So easy to work with. Went to a studio where she lived. We shot her live, by remote, and it was like a fantastic segment. It was really informative. And she actually emailed me after and said she got a lot of hits on her site, and it was really a great opportunity. And look, it took about a year for me to use her. So, yeah, not that people want to wait a whole year, but I think timing is everything. And if you have it, people remember you. And I remembered her.
Yeah, personality is a lot.
Impression.
Yeah, personality.
I remember booking someone because I was so impressed with how well they knew our audience, and about how it was a woman named Lauren Rutolo, and about how her book was, she wrote her book hoping to connect with exactly what our audience is at Wendy. She was so excited about being able to wear her red bottom shoes on the show, and that she was from Long Island, and Wendy's from New Jersey. She's been listening to her. She was on the radio years ago, and just really was invested in the show and knew our audience and knew how her book was going to connect with our audience and explained it very well to me, and she got booked on the show.
That's great. And let me ask you this. One thing that people might be wondering about, and I know they've asked me, is when they're pitching and they know that your host has a certain interest or hobby, it sounds like you like the idea of them, pitching something having to do with that, yes or no?
Well, it depends. Well, I mean, but like with Rachel, it doesn't work because I'm still getting. I wasn't here for a season, and the show, the first season wasn't really. They didn't explain to publicists exactly what it was, and so I'm still fighting the fact that it's a cooking show, which it's not. And so I still get publicists calling me about, an actor just coming up, and it's like, but he makes a mean falafel. You'll love it. And so sometimes it works against you. So I mean, I still think you have to know the show to say that. Look, I don't cook with all my celebrities. It's like you have to understand that. But same with dogs. Everyone knows Rachel loves dogs, but it doesn't mean I'm doing dog segments every episode.
I have to agree. Everybody calls me. Well, Kelly's a mommy.
Right.
She loves kids. It doesn't work for us. Because you know what? What makes all our hosts so great is that they can do anything.
Right. I mean, just because you see Wendy at a premiere or she likes music doesn't mean that your pitch is going to fit.
Right.
Makes sense. Talk to me about how much mail and email and phone calls you get. In fact, let me ask you to come up with a number for a second. So I'm going to ask you just for how many people a day, if you think a total number of emails, phone calls, things in the mail, I mean, how many people are trying to contact you every day? Come up, just write a number, just a guess. I'd be interested in. I imagine there might be a range, but the number might be.
I don't know, at least a few hundred a day.
Yeah.
I would have to agree.
But
and that's just emails. I mean, typically I have a couple of different email signatures, one with my phone number and one without it. Because if I don't have to give somebody my phone number, I won't. Because just the amount of work, the calls that I have to make, and then going through all these emails, if my phone's ringing off the hook, I might be sitting right there, but I just don't have time to answer it.
And I think the one thing to remember is that I think that we all realize that we're all busy. It's like I think that when we're pitched stuff, I know that whoever's hustling, trying to send us stuff, is also busy. But we're just a different type of busy because we're getting phone calls, emails about things that are timely or things that are in the future, and we're trying to answer all of them or figure out exactly how to use them. But you're also getting, besides the 150 direct emails, you're getting another 100 that are spam, that are things that are directed to the show, but because you signed up on the Universal, website, you're getting hits on other things. So it's a different kind of busy, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And for a live show also,
yeah, live shows even tougher.
We're working on what's happening tomorrow, and we're working on that all day. So when we have, a spare second to look towards maybe a couple of days in advance, we don't have time to really be picking up the phone and talking. It's like what Stacey was saying earlier. We don't have time to talk about November. We don't even have time to talk about next week because we're worried about tomorrow. It's a live show, and we got to put it on, and that's what we're getting ready for throughout the day.
And Steve, keep in mind with the live shows, because I've done live shows, is that you're getting calls at 10 o'clock at night because news is happening, and they're wondering if you want their expert the next day. Yeah. So live, as far as emails, phone calls, and messages, is even tougher than tape because it's never ending.
Well, I think not that I want to fill people with a whole bunch of rules. There's a lot to remember, the whole do's and don't list. But at the same time, going just back to one quick thing, when we said earlier that you should know who you're pitching. So if you know that Kelly is on live at 9 o'clock in the morning, then you shouldn't be emailing the producer between 9 and 10 because you should have assumed they're on the floor in the studio, they're with guests, they're taping a show. So there's no way they're going to be able to respond. Now, you can certainly send an email because they have the option of looking at it when they can get to it, but don't expect a response. Don't keep calling. Don't follow up because you didn't get a response when you know that they're live and they're probably in the studio at that very moment between 9 and 10 when they tape.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with the Internet and with computers, anybody who has a website, anybody who has a blog, anybody who has a word processor, can write a book and call themselves an author or an expert. And there's just so many more people now trying to get on these shows. It's a lot more competitive. I went to the early show and I had lunch with a friend of mine who's a producer there. And after lunch, she invited me up to her office, and we went upstairs and we looked around, and I was expecting to see a lot of stuff, a lot of press kits, a lot of books. But even I was blown away by how much stuff was in her office. I mean, she not only had press kits and materials and books on her desk and on every bookshelf, but she literally had them on the floor under her desk. She had every shelf jammed. I mean, she had them literally just crammed in this office. And the unbelievable thing is that while I was there for about 15 minutes, at least 3 different interns came in and brought in a box of books and press kits. It was just like a constant deluge. And then I went to Good Morning America, and they showed me the number of faxes they get just in the morning. And it was like as thick as the phone book. So, I mean, the bad news is that it's really crowded out there. And most people, when they think of getting publicity, what do they think about? And they think about writing a press release and sending it out. And that's a strategy that really makes you part of the crowd. It's hard to stand out that way. The good news is if you have a hook like we're teaching you, that really helps. Now, what's happened in recent years is we've created something that has really become a breakthrough way for ordinary people to get major publicity, to land appearances on national TV shows and magazines. And it started because for many years we would do workshops where I'd have 3 or 4 media people on a panel, and I'd have about 300 people in the room, and I would interview the media about what they're looking for, much like I'm interviewing you guys on this call. And what I found is that at the end of these sessions, the people from the audience would all rush forward to try to meet the producers and talk to them. Of course, a few people were able to do that, but most people just never really got a chance to talk to them because there were so many people in the room. And my brother Bill actually noticed this. He said, what if we created an event and we really limited the number of attendees? So let's say we limit it to 100 people so we can make sure that everybody would have a chance to have one-on-one face-to-face appointments with the media, and we structured the whole event that way, and we did it over several days, and that's really how our National Publicity Summit was born. And our next summit is fast approaching, and I'm going to have over 100 media there. And once again, I'm going to have more media attend the event than attendees. And I mean, it's hard to believe, I know, if you've never been, but boy, wait till you see it. Seeing is believing. And imagine coming to an event where, again, there was more people who could book you than there are people attending the event. And I'm talking major media. For example, in years past, we've had people from Good Morning America, CNN, The Early Show, The Oprah Magazine, Fox News, People Magazine, Parenting Parade, Redbook, Ladies Home Journal, ABC 2020, The View, Women's Day, Time, many, many more. And there's just really no other place where you'll meet so many media and be able to talk to them one-on-one and be able to, have the time to pitch them effectively. And it's just staggering the opportunity that it offers, whether you're somebody that's new to the game of publicity because we assume that you don't know anything at all. We train you ahead of time. Or obviously if you're a seasoned professional publicist, then you really can see the value of being able to have this much face time. You can see all this information. You can find out more about it by going to www.meetthemedia.com, www.meetthemedia.com. I think that when people first hear about my summit, their first reaction is one first of complete surprise and shock. They never knew anything like this existed. And then they start feeling even skeptical and say, well, this sounds too good to be true. Is this for real? Am I really going to meet these media? Yes, it is for real. You are going to meet the media. We structure the whole event so that you're going to be really happy with your ability to meet the media and present what you have. Now, don't take my word for it. Check it all out. Do whatever you have to do to check it out. Go to www.meetthemedia.com and see the proof. And don't forget, I offer a complete money-back guarantee, and you can read all about that at the website as well, so you have nothing to lose. What happens is I end up getting many more people who apply for this than I can accept, so be sure to go right away. In a minute, I'm also going to play you some audio clips from major national TV bookings that people have gotten from our Publicity Summit and from the contacts they made and the training they received, because we really do an extensive job of training you to make the most of the opportunity. So, for example, one of the things that we do is we make sure that you get coaching from several media trainers to make sure that you're really ready for the event. And I have a lot of media trainers who are former national TV producers. And so we really help you come up with the right hook and the right thing to say so that you really are prepared and confident to make the most of your time with the media. Well, sometimes people ask me, well, why do the media come to the event? And there are many reasons. One is that after 2 decades of being in this business, we have relationships with these folks. They know us. I mean, we know them from Radio TV Interview Report and all the different things that we've been doing over the years. But the other reason is that they're also looking to discover the next big guest. The one good guest that they can discover can make their career. So they come with an open mind. I mean, maybe you'll be the next Dr. Phil. Or maybe you'll just be a fresh face, a new expert that they haven't had on, because they really do need fresh guests and fresh story ideas. They constantly have deadlines. The other thing that I think is hard for people to grasp is this event is real and it's legitimate. And you tell somebody you can meet all these media in one place, and it's kind of natural for people to say, well, is this really for real? Yeah, let me ask you this question. A question I get people wonder about is they say, well, Steve, they know I do the Publicity Summit, and all of you have been a number of times, many times you've come to the event, and people wonder, well, so why do producers come to your Publicity Summit? Is it because Steve's such a nice guy?
Yes.
Why? So you're asking why we come as the media?
Yeah.
Because I think for us it's an opportunity, because we are so crazy in our offices and often, we're so bombarded. For me, I think it's an opportunity for me to meet new people that maybe I wouldn't have ordinarily have heard about or met, because there's a lot of new people that are sort of new to the media and haven't been out there and haven't pitched themselves yet. It's like finding that diamond in the rough. It just gives us an opportunity to go out. And to be quite honest, there really is no other time. I sadly don't have time to see my friends and family, let alone go meet people that want to pitch me. So I actually dedicate the 1 or 2 times a year to come to the summit, and that's my opportunity. In 3 hours, I get to meet 100 or more people that can pitch me in person, and I can gauge right then and there if I'm going to be able to use them, and literally find new talent, new people that I didn't know about. It's very beneficial for me as well as for the attendees.
Right. Plus, the people that we meet give us different ideas on what segments we can do for our show.
Yep. I'm there for the coffee only. That's the only reason I go. It's straight up free coffee, and I'm like, what's up? Let's do this.
And in this business, it's you're constantly looking for new things. You're looking for anything and everything. You don't even know what it is, but you know it when you see it.
Yeah.
And the summit is such a great opportunity because you see so many different people with different talents and different books out, things that you wouldn't normally have access to. And even if you just meet one person that you said this person would be perfect for the show, it becomes well worth it for us.
And I mean,
just one thing about meeting the people. If I can just throw this out there to the people that we're meeting, we are TV. Look your best.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I want to see what you would look like on TV.
Yeah, you gotta dress like you would for TV and look and make sure that you look your best.
Well, because Steve, you're pitching us in person, which doesn't happen in this business.
No, yes. You're really auditioning right then and there.
Well, exactly right, because you've got 2 minutes, whatever it is, and you're standing in front of us, and you're saying, this is the reason why I should be on your show.
If there's someone that we think is usable, we'll keep them in our Rolodex.
Yeah.
If there's someone that we don't, hopefully we'll tell them, like, look, we're really sorry, it's just not a fit. But then again, we also switch jobs, and the one thing that we take with us all the time, there's big turnover in this business, is our Rolodexes. We always keep our contacts.
Right. And for live, it's the same thing. We'll meet somebody. Harrison Forbes is a good example. Met him at the summit. Dog expert. We weren't really doing any dog segments. Held on to him, booked him. As a matter of fact, he's booked again. It's like his third time on our air.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, and once they get on and they prove themselves, obviously they've got to be good and do a great job. But that's the nice thing is that you will use guests who are dependable that you've had before.
Yeah, and you take them from show to show.
You do.
Yeah.
If you can trust your guest, wow.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah.
Because ultimately that's more cachet for us. I mean, it's like, oh yeah, I've got the expert. Oh yeah, I've got the guest. I mean, and they're going to be a home run.
Yeah.
And yes, you utilize them as much as possible.
Let me ask you to think about somebody who, I like how you mentioned Dr. Gadget before, somebody who's a media darling, somebody who's just a really good guest, or really good at getting your attention and giving you great value, where you just enjoy having them as a guest. And think about that for a minute, and then, what is it about them that makes them such a good guest that everyone listening here can learn from?
There's an expert that we've all used, Robbie Ludwig. She's a psychotherapist. She's been on all the shows, from the Today Show to every talk show, and she's fantastic because she always plays ball. She's versatile. She works with the producers. She, can, if you give her a topic, she'll always play ball. I think it's really helpful when people, even if it's something that's maybe not necessarily exactly what they do, they'll do the research and they'll help you. Or if you're building a segment and you need some of the research done because they're an expert in an area, they'll help you. They want to work with you, not against you. And I think that's always really helpful when they're there, they want to do it, they're excited about it, they play ball, they make themselves available, they don't give you a difficult time. It's just easy breezy. You can give them a car, they come, they just show up, they know how to do it, they're pros, and it makes your life so much easier.
No.
The bottom line is they work with you.
Yeah.
Give and take.
Yeah, we work with someone named Greta Monahan, who's amazing, and she's been a friend of the show since season 1, and she does a lot of beauty and makeovers for us, and you just know what you're going to get with her. And, when we say it's going to be a long day, and she's here for 2 shows and here from 9 o'clock until 7 o'clock, she doesn't complain, she doesn't say a word. She's here to work, and she wants to be a contributor to the show.
You mentioned Dr. Gadget brought on props or talk a little bit about that. I mean, what can a guest do in terms of offering visuals or things that, if they have them, you want to know type things? Talk about that.
If they're a doctor and they have x-rays, for instance, or if they're a doctor, and, you're talking about people that have all different areas of expertise, but let's just say, for instance, they're, a medical doctor and they're talking about some kind of brain thing. Then we obviously would want to see that. So do they have the before and the after? Or if they do something with food, we would want them to have a food stylist. Or, this way everything looks really good on stage.
It's the same thing as in a pre-interview with a celebrity. All of a sudden they'll say, yeah, when I was 12 I was playing drums. Really? Do you still play drums? Do you play them on the show? We'll show them how to do it, which is what we just did. It's those types of things. They'll throw out something, and then all of a sudden our heads will go, and we'll think, yes, we'll do this.
Right. Recently we did an As Seen on TV segment, and I've been working with this guy who's been trying to get on the show for a long time, and I said, the products have to be right, the demos have to be fun, and, we went back and forth a bunch of times, and frankly, I was like, I don't know if this is going to work, until he said, I have this product called the Furniture Fix, which if you have a saggy couch, you put this thing underneath and it makes it like brand new, and I can bring a sumo wrestler out to sit on the couch to prove it. And as soon as he said that, I said, I need to have a sumo wrestler come to the couch. I have to figure out a way to get this to work on the show. So it's little hooks like that that made me want to make it work with this guy.
And Steve, the other thing that's so funny is that a lot of times people will pitch us and will hate the idea, but will love something in the idea. Or we'll love the person who was pitching it and try to figure out a way to get them on, even though the idea they pitched us was bad. So it's like, in the creative process, if you walked into a room and say, hey, I was pitched this, someone's going to be like, that doesn't work for us, but if we take an aspect of it, we can utilize it this way. So, that's why I love getting all pitches, just because you never know what you're going to hit from it.
And that's one thing I enjoy watching you guys at the summit, because you're there, you're meeting them face to face, person to person. They're right there, with you. And I do find that many of you're really open and creative and looking for possibilities.
Well, it's not solely their responsibility to come up with
Right.
show segments and topics. Obviously, as producers, this is our job. Our job is to create these shows and come up with things. But certainly, it helps us to know what they can do, and we want them to be creative, and it's a partnership, so it's not solely their job. And also, they have to be flexible, because they may come to us and say, and this happens a lot at the summit, they work really hard and they come up with some good ideas, but I might say to someone, you know what, that's a great idea that you know, have this, like, I don't know, sensibility, I don't know, if they're a nurse. You know, that's great that you're a nurse, and that's great that you work with children, but actually my idea is to have you do X, Y, and Z.
So far, we've talked about the benefits of publicity, and we've gotten feedback from my producer friends here. And now let's hear from some people who actually made it happen. And you'll see on the handout there are photos of these folks under case history. And many of them didn't feel ready to pitch the media at first, but they found a way to get the training and to get their confidence up and to make it happen. First up, I want to let you hear an interview I did with Barry Skilka. And I first asked Barry, I asked him to describe his business, and here's what he had to say.
I'm the founder of a company called Let's Talk, and we've created an in-home relationships program that retails for between $100 and $200, depending what you buy. And I've been a businessman for 15 years. I've been on the Chamber of Commerce. I've sat on the Economic Development Board. And so I was already very comfortable speaking to the local media and things like that. But a friend of mine told me once, he said, Barry, if you want to make big money, you've got to go where the big money is. And I had to admit it was a little bit scary because the big money I knew in my heart was, talking to the national media. And one of the reasons I got along so well with the local media was because of what all of your producers have said, the relationships that we'd already developed. They knew that they could trust me when I got on the air to talk about anything. They knew that they could trust me to say, you know what, I don't know anything about that subject, and they were very happy. So when I finally came to the Publicity Summit, which I happened to be honored to be at the very first one, here I am in a room full of 80 people, all pre-screened. I'm the only Canadian guy there. And when you guys taught us how to pitch to the national media, I was sitting there going, okay, I can do this. And then you're standing in front of the national media going, okay, take a deep breath. And I made my pitch to a producer named Mike Straka at Fox News, and he was blown away. We'd given him a couple of different pitches. He said, those are good, but he said, that's not what I'm currently working on. And what we did was we took one of the tips that you gave us was to make our pitch timely. And because it was just about a couple of weeks before the troops were about to go to war, so we changed our pitch to say, look, we've got this program, but the troops are about to go to war. Why don't we do something called What to Say Before You Say Goodbye? And his jaw just dropped and he said, you're kidding. That's exactly what I'm doing a story on right now. That's why I came here. Oh, really? He said, let me check a few things out, and I'll call you back after lunch. And weird thing was, that night at 5 o'clock, I was in the Fox News studios. And when the interview was over, he interviewed me for about 15 minutes, and I said, well, how'd it go? And he said, I have to be honest with you, Barry, that went a lot better than I thought it would. And it was because of the training I got from you and your brother, and I just want to thank you so much for that, because like I said, I thought I was comfortable dealing with the media, but with the extra little bit of confidence I got from you guys, it allowed me to pitch the national media and make a difference. And, I mean, here's the irony. Here's a guy from Canada saying goodbye to the U.S. troops. How does that work?
It shows you the power of a good hook, right?
Oh, it was perfect. I couldn't believe it. And one of the things that's happened is my company's doing another special promotion across the country, and all of that footage that I got from Fox News is going to be on our website because of all the things that we did back then.
You know, that's a great way to come up with a hook. And I would suggest that to anybody really on this call to do what Barry did, to think about a problem that you can help people solve. Let me give you another example of some folks who did that really well. Ron and Lisa Barris. They have a company that helps people create healthier home environments. And they sell organic products, non-toxic products for the home. They also have a book. And as a result of our training process before the summit, they realized that the media want ratings. You know, they want a show. They don't want just a commercial. And the hook they came up with that they thought would really attract an audience is they said to the media, hey, why not do a show called Is Your Home Killing You? Well, the producer of the Today Show loved the idea and was really impressed with them when she met them at our event in New York. And as a result, they got booked for a 7-minute segment with Matt Lauer on the Today Show. Now, to land that appearance, they did something that's really important that I would suggest really that anybody consider doing when pitching TV. And that is they helped the producer put the show together. They suggested another expert who could also be interviewed. They gave the producer a list of things they could show and demonstrate on the air to make the segment more visually interesting, things like air filters and water filters and detergent. And some of these things, it turned out, you know, it was great because some of these things were actually their own products. Now listen to this edited excerpt from the Today Show appearance, and listen for how Matt Lauer sets the show up. He gets the viewer's attention. He sets up the problem by bringing in a specific family. And then he has Lisa and Ron as the experts talk about the problem, and they do a great job of speaking in sound bites.
Your home is supposed to be your sanctuary, a place where you can be safe from all the dangers of the outside world. But if you suffer from chronic fatigue, headaches, or difficulty breathing, you just may be living inside the enemy.
Ready, 1, 2, 3.
David and Kelly Ford and their twin sons, Jack and Max, have lived in this Southern California home for nearly 2 years. But now they're starting to wonder, could their house be making them sick?
I thought about whether or not my home was healthy because I've had asthma for a long time, and if I walk in the house, my asthma almost always gets worse.
To find out just how healthy or unhealthy the Ford's house is, we called in the experts, the founders of GreenNest.com, Lisa and Ron Barrett, who educate consumers about dangerous toxins in the home, and Larry Gus, an environmental inspector. No one can say for sure if this house is affecting the Ford's health, but what is certain, they would like to breathe a little easier. David and Kelly Ford are at home in Southern California. As we mentioned, Ron and Lisa Barris are the founders of GreenNest.com, and Lisa's also the author of a children's book called My Body, My House. Good morning to everybody. Good morning. So Lisa, before we check in with David and Kelly, okay, why don't you give me the verdict? Exactly how healthy or unhealthy is their home?
Okay, well, unfortunately, their house is not healthy. The reasons are basically this, and this is typical of most homes. We found contaminants in the water linked to cancers and heart problems and more diseases. We found high body voltage in the nursery because of electrical wiring in the wall near the crib. We found a gas leak in the water heater that they didn't even know was there. And most importantly, we found poor indoor air quality from mold that was found in the carpet, as well as a very serious dust mite problem that they didn't know they had in the carpet.
Is their home unhealthy as in run for your lives, move to another place unhealthy, or is their home unhealthy as in make some changes?
It's unhealthy as in make some changes. And that's what we're here to say is that most people have contaminants in their home, and you can do something about it.
Now, I interviewed them by phone, and here's a short clip of what they had to say.
Yeah, you have a neat story that I think other people could learn from about, what you did with that. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The Today Show segment itself actually is broken up into 2 different pieces, one of which we provided a lot of guidance. People don't realize how much control you have over that process. I mean, we had certain ideas and things we wanted to express and just inform people. And the producers rely on you to help create that segment. There's different shots visually that we knew were interesting and also compelling. Maybe the producer didn't. So we made sure we went as far as to create even a shot list for the segment. So what we're here to say is, I mean, you can really influence this process. People think that because it's a national TV show, maybe this producer or segment producer has all the answers and all the questions, but no. They rely on you, and it gives you an opportunity to present what you want in a tailored fashion. Not exactly, but it gives you some guidance to do that.
Right. They're not the expert in your field. You are.
One of the things Lisa also said was that she and her husband first had to overcome their initial skepticism about whether my National Publicity Summit would live up to the hype, so to speak.
Yeah, when I first got the notification of the summit, I remember I was intrigued, but I was a little nervous to even present it to Ron, because he tends to be skeptical of these things at the beginning. So I kind of waited a few days before I talked to him and showed him. And I had listened to a call similar to this, and I was very excited about it, and we proceeded. So
I even followed up with reference calls too, and it completely exceeded our expectations, quite frankly. We knew nothing initially. We didn't have the slightest idea on how to get publicity for ourselves, and the seminar itself and just everything in general gave us the tools to not only have the opportunity to meet some of these producers, to pitch our idea that we were trying to present, but it gave us the tools to follow up, put together solid press kits, have great story pitches, and there's different ways to target producers and so forth to get us out there.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, we were really just in the dark as far as what to do. We're a new business. We hadn't been up that long.
And needless to say, we needed publicity. And so from ultimately going to the summit, we had this golden opportunity to meet with producers from national television shows, national radio shows, different print publications, and so forth, and just I don't know. It changed everything for us. I mean, from doing that, we ultimately got a 7-minute segment booking on the Today Show. We did a national show with Fox and Friends. Mm-hmm. We got a dozen radio shows.
Yeah, almost a dozen radio shows, print, newspapers, magazines. It does snowball. I think once you get one thing, it's easy to get the next thing and easy to get the next thing. You know, the whole Summit experience just changed everything for us.
Let me give you another example. You know, we're talking about being timely. And one of my clients who came to the National Publicity Summit is Lori Quinn Lowenberg. Now, Lori, I would say, in a way, has a challenging topic. She's a dream interpreter, okay? So as you can imagine, the media could be very skeptical. I mean, you know, like, how do we know what this person is saying is true? But one of the things that she learned from our Publicity Summit is, again, how to tie in and make your pitch timely, how to make it entertaining. And she met the producer at The View at the summit. She had a really good rapport with her, and she suggested to the producer from The View that she do a show for Halloween on why nightmares are actually good for you. Okay, how's that for a hook? And she offered to talk about what your dreams mean and what your nightmares mean. And here's a little bit about how it sounded.
Scary and sometimes just plain bizarre, but did you ever wonder what your bad dreams really mean? Well, we're finding out right now from the founder of the DreamZone.com, Lori Quinn Lowenberg. Welcome, Lori.
Now, if you notice, she really got her plug there right away. After this aired, she was just getting flooded with internet traffic.
We all have scary dreams and nightmares from time to time. What causes them, and are they a reflection of what's going on in our daily life?
Well, actually, our dreams do reflect our daily life. So what you do today, you will dream about tonight. But nightmares, however, the dark side of dreaming, they're trying to get our attention. They're alerting us to something that is wrong in our life. Basically, it's the way our dreaming mind is saying, pay attention already. The more we avoid things in waking life, the more hostile our dreams will become.
Oh, you get very, very scared. Can you go through some of the things that happen in those dreams, the specific items?
Well, there's a lot of common symbols we all get in our dreams. We're going to go over 5 of them today.
And then she goes into her talking points, which actually is an important point itself, is you want to be able to speak in sound bites. And that just takes some training, you know. So be sure to get media training. It's one of the things that people say they really like about, you know, working with my company, coming to my events, and coming to the summit, is that they actually learn how to speak in sound bites. For example, psychiatrist Ish Major. Now, he really learned this, and he was really glad to learn it because he had an important message. You see, as a psychiatrist, he'd have all these women that would come to him who were complaining about the problems they were having with men. And he just felt like the women weren't getting it. They weren't understanding, you know, what men were saying or not saying, you know, beneath their words. And so he wrote a book called Little White Wives. And he came to my Publicity Summit, and he worked with one of my coaches who helped him come up with a really good hook to speak in sound bites. And he also got really valuable feedback on just how he should be presenting himself on TV. He literally to change his wardrobe, you know, to wear softer colors that would go more with a relationship type message. And one of the hooks that he was able to get through this process was the concept of decoding the language of men. You see? So see how that's very short, and that's what you need. You need a hook that will just instantly serve as the teaser. Coming up, decoding the language of men. You need to have that teaser, that phrase that the show can use to get people to watch a whole bunch of commercials and come back to this segment. So I interviewed Dr. Major, and here's what he had to share.
Some amazing things have happened. It started as a small fire, and then it just kind of exploded. Started with some local media, and we did all three, the print, the radio, and also television. And what I found was I did some training with you guys, some media training, and that was invaluable, by the way. We can get back to that. But from there, people started liking it because I was so good at what I had learned in the media, as far as on radio and on television, and, the idea was good. And so I kept getting more and more exposure locally, more and more print exposure, which is very lasting. And then one day I got the call, the folks from the Today Show want a copy of your book. And we sent them in a copy. And a couple of months later, and there's a tip, sometimes things don't happen immediately, but, you just kind of sit on it, and a couple of months later, I got the call back, hey, we got a relationship segment, and we want you to come up and do a segment with Kathy Lee and Coda. Wow. What a day. I can still remember that day.
And you'd never been on national TV before?
Never, ever been on national TV before. Watched Kathy Lee and Coda for years and years, and it was just an amazing experience. So from there, things just really started snowballing. And so that was about 9 months ago. And I'll tell you what, Steve, from there I went to and did an international TV show, the biggest breakfast television show in Canada. I did that show. I've done foreign radio. I have the foreign book release coming out in Paris this summer. I've been on the Today Show now a total of 4 times. The segment before the last one, which was last week, actually sat down with Matt Lauer, which was unbelievable for me. Here's some news. You didn't even know this. Last segment of the Today Show was up in New York. The producers, sat down in the room and told me, Ish, listen, before you leave, we just want to let you know you're now in the cycle. I said, oh, okay, great, the cycle. What is that? They said, no, you understand. You're a regular now. We will be calling you back regularly. You're one of our guys now. Wow.
It's a perfect example of becoming known as really the go-to guest, where when they're doing relationships, they think of you, and you obviously come across well on the air. You've got your media brand. You really look the part. You're very telegenic. Now, is Meryl Getline on the call?
Yes.
Tell people just about your story. As you say, you're a pilot. Tell them a little bit about your story in your book.
Well, you said it. My name is Meryl Getline, and I am the author of a book called The World at My Feet, and it's a story of how I was a little girl being told little girls cannot grow up to be airline pilots, to here I am, guess what, captain of a jumbo jet for United Airlines. I fly all over the world all the time. It's great. So I wrote this book for a couple reasons. My mom made me. After 50 years of nagging, I finally wrote this thing, and that book led to a huge advance. I shouldn't say huge, a very, very hefty advance for another book by an actual publisher. I put out the first one, and that actually ties in with the Publicity Summit. They saw me as somewhat of a celebrity because I was, in fact, on The View. When I left the summit, I don't want to get away, but I had, I think, 17 interviews booked before I left the room on the third day of the summit. Most of them were radio. I had 4 TV spots, and the rest were radio spots, and some of them were nationally syndicated radio spots. So I went to this publisher. I took the book, and they said, you know what, we're going to write a new book. You keep that one. We're going to do a new one.
But also there was something in the training. I remember that, in our training we do teleseminars where people can try out their hooks and get ideas. And I remember working with you, Meryl, and I asked you the question. I said, hey, when people find out that you're a pilot, what's the first question they ask you? And I remember you said, well, as a pilot, they ask me about turbulence, and is turbulence something to worry about? And I said, hold it, stop for a second. That's your hook. I know your book has interesting anecdotes, and it's about how, you broke through the glass ceiling and became, one of the first female pilots for a commercial airline. But the thing that's going to get you on is what the audience, what the average person wants to know. And that was the whole idea of turbulence. And so let me play a clip, and we'll hear some more from you here in a second.
Board a plane over the holidays until you find out the truth about flying safely this season, and we're getting all the answers today from commercial airline pilot Captain Meryl Getline. Welcome. Nice to see you. I am not somebody who likes to fly at all. I have a true fear of flying, but one of the things I hate the most is turbulence. I'm very scared of it. What is it, and should I be afraid? Well, you know what? Turbulence is the #1 fear of people flying, and I can't believe it. It is nothing. It is like driving over a bounce road. No, it's not. Deal. Oh, no. Turbulence is absolutely not. Even when the plane goes, there's these huge drops. That is a perception. The airplane goes up and down. You feel the negative G's and positive G's. It really is nothing. People swear to me, my plane dropped 5,000. No, it didn't. It dropped 20 feet. It's nothing. It really is. It has to be so bad for it to matter. Unless stuff gets loose and starts banging around, you all don't even get concerned, do you? No, we don't. Speaking of turbulence, what is it?
And it goes on and on. In fact, that's Meryl on The View. And that came as a result of her meeting the producer in New York and being able to get that kind of hook. In fact, when she fleshes it out, I mean, what's the hook that's worked so well for you?
Well, between you and me and one of the coaches from the Publicity Summit, it was 10 things you wish you could ask an airline pilot. And my book is called The World at My Feet. It has nothing to do with this, but at the end of the view, there was a nice big picture of my book right there on the air. It was great.
Yeah, yeah.
But they, like you said, what I talk about on the air is not about my book necessarily. I would love to do that, but mostly what I do is I do interviews about the most popular questions I get. And as a result of the Publicity Summit and all this other stuff, I did actually get my own column at USA Today on the online version in the travel section every week. So one thing led to another. The bottom line is networking and stepping from one thing to the next. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger for me all the time. In fact, I've been hired by American Express, so I don't know if you know that, but I do another column for them, and the New York Times tried to buy me out, and USA Today said no, and it's great. You know, all these people are fighting over me. I like that.
And you're even getting offers from doing speeches now.
Yes, I am, and I can't believe it. I told you the story the other night, but I was just talking to somebody, and I'm so busy. I fly a full international schedule. I was just on a major show the other day in San Francisco with Ron Owen's show on KGO in the Bay Area, and I met Mark Silverman, the producer, at your summit over a year ago. We've been in contact all this time. But I digress. I was sitting next to a woman on my airplane once when I was commuting to work, and she was talking to me, and she looked at my book. It came up, and she said, "We'd like you to speak." And I am just so over my head with engagements, I couldn't do it. And I didn't blow her off. But I said, "Well, you know, I'm kind of expensive. I charge $20,000 a speech." And she said, "Oh, that's not a problem." I can't believe it.
Well, you know, I think you said it well. I mean, yes, I get some of the credit. The event gets the credit. You get the credit. The trainers get the credit. I mean, you took what we taught you and applied it. And that's why I'm just so excited to see all your success. I mean, like a real pilot, you're really soaring. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more incredible things.
Well, you know, I would just like to say for whoever is on this call at this point, it is the best money in my own book that I have ever spent investing in myself for anything. I suddenly have like what seems like a gazillion contacts I never would have had on my own. I have a few contacts on my own, but I don't know the producer of The View for any other reason than I met her face-to-face at the summit. She immediately said, "We want you on our show." And a few months went by, and the timing was perfect one day, and she called me up, and off I went, and I was on the show.
So I think we've really covered some very good concepts for people. We talked about watching the show, knowing the format of the show, how they use guests, and paying attention to that. We talked about, you know, when pitching by email, get right to the point in the subject header, so that the concept for the show is right there. In fact, a perfect email would be literally the title for the show, or the hook, the thing that they could say that would be the teaser to get people to stay tuned for a bunch of commercials to come back to that segment. Okay. Like decoding the language of men. Okay. We've talked about being timely, like Lori Quinn Lowenberg did, tying in with Halloween, and like Barry did, tying in with, you know, news event of soldiers heading off to war. We've talked about how it's important to really be flexible, to show the producers that you can roll with things and that you're all about helping them and their audience. And we really, you know, talked about how this is a relationships business. You know, that the media and the producers, they remember you. They'll notice your pitches if they're good. They'll, you know, if you can build that relationship with them, it's just critically important. And let me give you an interesting exercise that's fun. In fact, on the handout, you'll see where it says exercise. You can just take it there if you're following along in the handout, or just grab a piece of paper, just a scratch piece of paper. And here's what I want you to see. As you listen to me here, I simply want to ask you one question, and that is just think about who are 5 people who contacted you recently. So 5 people who contacted you recently, you know, could be by phone, cell phone, email, mail, family, friends, strangers, neighbors, anybody, just 5 people. Just go ahead and write 5 first names down real quick. 5 names of people who contacted you recently, first names. Okay? So you got these 5 names down. And let me ask you just simply to put a check mark next to each person that you have met personally face-to-face at least once. Now, when I do this at my live events, people tell me that really the majority or all of them are people they've met face-to-face at least once. And why is that? Because when we meet people face-to-face, we tend to remember them, right? The whole idea of putting a face with a name, and they receive what's called our top-of-mind status. They're the first ones we think of. So now let me ask you this question. If I were to ask one of these producers that you've just, been listening to, if I were to ask them to give me 5 names of people who talk about your topic, whatever your topic is, whether it's business or finance or yoga, whatever the topic is, parenting, nutrition, could be anything. But if I asked them for 5 names, would you be on their list? And the thing is, of course, their list would be the people they think of as the people they've met before. And this is actually a really just an exciting concept to realize that the more you can meet the media, the better your results are going to be. And we've just really seen that. It's really why my Publicity Summit has become a huge breakthrough way for people to land major media attention that they weren't getting before, because when the producers meet you, they can hear your passion. They can ask you questions. They can connect with you. They can, brainstorm with you a little bit about how they might use you for their show. And that's what's really, really cool. They might be saying, but Steve, I'm not ready to meet the media. I mean, my book isn't even out yet. I don't even know what I'm promoting exactly, maybe. Well, let me ask you something. If the Today Show wanted to interview you tomorrow, if they called you today and they said, we'd like to interview you tomorrow, would you say yes? Yeah, you'd do the interview, wouldn't you? Well, let me tell you a true story about a guy who grew up in Kansas. And, boy, if anybody just, kind of reflected, not ready, this guy's in Kansas, and he played football, he majored in psychology. In fact, at one point, when he was in college, his team lost 106. It was one of the worst losses of any team, in history. He became a psychologist, and he was working as a psychologist with his father, and then he started working with lawyers and helping them, pick juries and helping them, win cases that they were trying. And he met a lady who was a client, and she was being sued and giving her some advice. They got to know each other. And it just so happened that she had a TV show, and she invited him onto that TV show to talk about relationships. And he did a good job. He got invited back again and again and again. And that TV host was Oprah, and the guy was Phil McGraw, known as Dr. Phil. Now, at the time, Dr. Phil didn't have a book. He didn't have, I don't think he had a whole, any kind of demo reel or press kit or, it's just that he met the right person and everything changed. And he's been listed on he's got several best-selling books, because, and again, he built the media first and the following first. And then people, were dying to publish his book. And he's been on the list of Forbes top celebrities, and ranked number 22. And he's on the internet. I've seen different reports of him making over $40 million. Another report saying that he makes $80 million. My point is, a huge success for somebody who could have said, "Well, I'm not ready." Of course, we can't imagine him saying that, right? He'd go for it. Now, that's a huge success story. The principle is the same. If this feels right, trust your gut. Have you ever had the experience where you met somebody and they opened up a whole door for you that you did not you didn't think, maybe it was a job, maybe it was because you met that person, or because maybe you met somebody and it opened up a relationship that just never would have come your way. And that's what's really exciting about my Publicity Summit, because many of the folks that you have heard, Ron and Lisa, they had some products. They didn't have a book. Marianne mentioned Harrison Forbes. He came to my event. He didn't have a book. He wanted to get publicity. Ended up getting on Live with Regis and Kelly. Ended up getting a book deal from all of that. So, when are you ready? You're ready when you decide that you're ready. And just like I said, trust your gut on this. Now, I want to point out, I can't guarantee if you come to my Publicity Summit that you're going to get on national TV. I mean, it depends on you. It depends on your topic. It depends on how well you incorporate the training. I can tell you that I've not heard of anybody who came to my last summit who didn't get publicity as a result. And then why is that? Well, one is that we do such a thorough job training everybody who participates. And the other is just the law of averages. I mean, I'm guaranteeing that you're going to have at least 100 media there and that you're going to be able to meet them. And you say, well, 100 media? Steve, how is that possible? Well, let me explain the basic format so you can really see how this works. And if you're following along in the handouts where it says National Publicity Summit format, here are the basic steps for the summit. Step one is that you apply and get accepted. And in a minute I'll let you know, where to go to apply. But you apply and hopefully you're accepted. Okay, now, I turn a lot of people away simply because I want to have a high caliber of attendees. I want the media to be happy with those that are meeting, and I can only take 100 folks. I'm looking for the best 100 people that I can assemble, and again, because I want the media to be really, really happy with the folks that I have there. Now, you may say, well, geez, I don't feel quite ready. I mean, do I even have a chance of making the cut? Well, here's the thing. I do have people that are complete newbies to this, and they come and they have big success. I mean, like I said, you've heard a number of them talk about their experiences. So it's okay if you haven't done anything like this before. I really designed this. I'm assuming that you don't know anything about publicity. I've had best-selling authors attend my event, really seasoned people who've been on shows. But it's not the amount of experience that's so important to me. It's really your passion. And also, is your topic going to be something that I think the media will be interested in? Do I feel like you'll be open-minded and able to incorporate the training? That you'll be flexible and really open to the training so that you'll be able to pitch yourself effectively. Which leads to step two. We train you to pitch yourself effectively. We train you to make the most of the experience, to get to the point. To show your hooks. And again, we assume that you know nothing, which is comforting to many people. And here's how we do it. We have a series of teleseminars on how to write copy, how to pitch producers. You're going to hear feedback. You're going to hear other attendees, pitch themselves and get feedback. It's a really great way to learn. It's a really fun way to learn because we role play, and it just really works out great. In fact, I've had a lot of people that shake my hand when they first see me at the summit, and they say, Steve, you know what? I already got my money's worth. I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, because the training was so good. In fact, some people have already applied it and gotten publicity locally in a different media outlet. So it's very, very thorough. Step number three, we give you information about the media and what they cover. And, you tell us who you want to meet, and we then will give you the information about types of things they're looking for, because they tell us, what types of things are they looking for. So you're going to really be prepared. The whole event is like speed dating for the journalists and media, and you're trained to get right to the point, and you're going to be confident in knowing the types of things they cover. So step four is to enjoy meeting the media at the summit. And let me point out on the handout, you'll see a photo of a group of people, really a photo of the media panel. And that's just taken from one morning. Now, we have 5 different Meet the Media sessions. We have one on Thursday morning. We have one on Thursday afternoon. We have another one on Friday afternoon. We have another one on Saturday morning. We have another one on Saturday afternoon. So my point is, if you look in that picture, you'll see about 25 people up on a stage on a panel. and I'm interviewing them. Now, we do that 5 times. They come for the morning or for, half the day, and I interview them and I ask them questions similar to what you've heard me ask my media friends on this call. Then we take them into another room where they sit under a big sign that has their name and their logo, and they're on a stool. And in fact, you can see Stacy Rollins there. You'll see 2 pictures of her talking to people. And so you're able to one-on-one meet with the media. You have a few minutes with each one, and you're able, again, you're trained ahead of time to get to the point. You already know what they're looking for, and we do have somebody there with a stopwatch to keep things moving, and it really works out well, and it's a lot of fun. Like I said, the thing is like speed dating for the media. So it's incredible training. I had somebody get mad at me who said, Steve, you didn't tell people the big value of the summit. She'd heard me speak about the summit, and she said, you didn't tell them that all the people I met, the high caliber of attendees, and you didn't tell them about the skill of being able to do this. Just increased my confidence, she said, so much. She said that, look, I landed a book deal with Hay House. I've been on CNN. It's incredible, and it is incredible, and it's a heck of a lot of fun. So go to www.meetthemedia.com. You can read all about it, and then you can apply with the understanding that if you're accepted, you're in. Now, so go to meetthemedia.com and apply. If you apply by noon tomorrow, I'm going to give you something special, but only if you apply by noon tomorrow. If you do that and you're accepted, I'm going to give you 2 free ads in my email edition of Radio TV Interview Report. That's the email edition of my magazine I do for radio and TV producers. And you'll be getting 2 ads in there. Each time you'd reach over 1,000 radio and TV producers. And it's not uncommon for people to get 10 or more radio interviews just from one listing. It's also a great way to be getting publicity even before the summit or after, whenever you want to use it. But again, you need to apply by noon tomorrow for that. And I'll tell you this, my publicity summit pretty much always sells out, it seems. I mean, we just always get a very good turnout. I find that after these teleseminars in the past, applications really do come in very quickly. So I don't take it personally if you don't come. I've always felt badly when people procrastinated and they don't come because, as I said, I have more people typically than I can accommodate. So I urge you, go to meetthemedia.com now, find out all about it, see all the proof, all the details, and all the information. And I want to thank my producer friends here for joining me. Now, is there anything else you guys want to say before we wrap up?
Yes, Rachel Ray rocks.
Looking forward to seeing a whole new batch of people at the next summit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Steve, I know I wasn't invited to the next summit, but I hope it goes well.
You drank so much coffee, and that was really the problem.
I was just a little hyper. I'm excited to be there.
Well, we're looking forward to having you guys. It's going to be great. I just so appreciate your taking the time to share from really just many years of expertise on booking guests and producing TV. And a lot of these things are things that, people just don't realize. And I think you really pulled back the curtain to help them see what they really need to see to succeed, in coming to our summit, or even if they can't make the summit, just things that they need to be doing to pitch you effectively. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your joining me.
Thank you, but they need to be at the summit to pitch us effectively.
Okay.
Face-to-face.
What'd you say?
Face-to-face.
Face-to-face. Well, I mean, I think, I don't think people realize, I don't think they realize how rare an opportunity that is.
It's a very big deal because we're all very important people.
Awesome. Listen, this was great, and I really appreciate you joining me. You guys, take care, and I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Take care, Steve.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.